Welcome to the Football Journey Podcast. This podcast is powered by a football journey. I am your host, Derek Ware. The football season for me is about to start. We've just finished our first week of practice, and I don't know when you're listening to this, but now I've had some questions that have been asked of me, some character questions and some coaching questions, and so I just figured we could address it right here on the Football Journey Podcast. And so I'm just going to go through a couple questions today. Question number one was asked: How do you balance how do you balance caring about players with also making them tough? And so I was asked this question by a coach, and when I dove in deeper, I asked them a couple questions, and what I found out is their staff had just finished reading this book, Inside Out Coaching. It's written by Joe Ehrmann, and great book. In the book, he talks about how there's two different types of coaches. There's a transactional coach and a transformational coach. A transactional coach sees his coaching of the players as a transaction, as, hey, I'm going to give you wisdom and coach you. And in turn, you are going to win me football games and build my name and make me look good and build my ego and help me get a better job. And it's a either or type thing. This is the type of coach that says things like, you'll get your butt beat. He's telling the players, hey, it's not us, it's you. You will lose. I've seen coaches oftentimes say these things on accident. They say things like, hey, I didn't come here for you guys to do this. When I came here to win football games. I didn't come here for you guys to not show up to workouts and make me lose. And that's a transactional coach, a coach that sees his coaching as a transaction. And then there's a transformational coach. And this is the type of coach that comes in, and his whole goal is to transform players' lives, to make them better men and better women and better people. And that is the type of coach who uses his power as coach, his position, to really create influence and care and concern and empathy. And in the book, he talks about, he tells the players, hey, your job, us as coaches, our job is to love you, and your job is to love each other. And so the coach was asking me, he was like saying, hey, look, this book is all about love and empathy and caring about the players, but it's soft. What happens, when your players are just soft and weak and they're not tough? And that's an interesting question. I know that for me growing up, I had a lot of natural adversity built into my life. I didn't grow up with a bunch of money. We were really poor, and there was some things that I had to overcome. And I really praise God for those things, because that's what made me who I am today. And I look back, and I wouldn't trade a single one of those moments. It's made me. It's built resilience in me. It's built character in me, and it's been a special time. At the same time, I look at my own kids, and my kids, they're going to grow up in a house where they don't need things. There's always going to be food. They have a mother and a father who love each other and care about each other and also care about them. And so they're not going to have the same adversity that I had growing up. And so I was a little worried at first, how are my kids going to become men and women of character? And here's what I found. I want my kids to, I found that I'm going to get them involved in sports, because sports, as you know, creates something in us. It creates a natural adversity, this ability to fail and overcome, and it's done in a very nice, compact environment. Anytime, I want my kids to have things that they love and they're willing to pour their heart and soul into. But anytime you pour your heart and soul into something, you will get disappointed. Anytime you set out on a journey for greatness, there are going to be nights where you lay awake at night excited for what's going to happen next, but there's also going to be nights where you lay awake or you cry yourself to sleep, disappointed about what happened. And that is built into our human condition. We are built for that, and that's what's beautiful about sports. I know that I went on and I had a lot of success in sports, but also there was a lot of failure along that way. And I don't know, I haven't heard very many success stories, and I don't know of anybody who has just skyrocketed this golden road and hasn't had any setbacks, any failures. And so that's where the adversity comes from. And this idea of, hey, we've got to be the adversary to our players. We've got to be the one that causes this. I'm not sure if that's 100% accurate. Here, let me give you an example. Here's another book. This book's called A Fighter's Heart by Sam Sheridan. I read this book. It's an incredible book. It's about a journalist who went to he wanted to study all the different martial arts all over the world. And so he went to all these different training camps. He went to Thailand and studied Muay Thai, kickboxing. He went to Brazil and studied Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He went to Japan and looked at the Pride Fighting Championships. And he went and did all these things. And there's a chapter in here where he talked about dog fighting. He went and studied dog fighting. He wanted to know what's in a dog that makes it fight. And it's a really sad chapter. These dogs are fighting, and the dogs usually don't die in the fight, but they're killed by the owner after. It's terrible. It's really terrible stuff, and dog fighting is not okay. But in the book, he talks about there's two different dog fight trainers, two different dog trainers. They're called dogmen, and one type of dog trainer believes that it's about creating a dog that is mean. And so he does things to the dog to create adversity. He pours hot sauce in the dog's face and feeds the dog hot sauce. He hits the dog. He isolates the dog all by itself. And these dogs do become very, very poorly adjusted to living in the world, and they're neurotic and they're short-tempered. And then there's another type of dogman who cares for his dog. Lets his dog live in the house and sleep in the bed, and then in the chapter, what the journalist found is that it's the dog that has the owner that cares for him, that loves that dog, ends up fighting so much longer and harder than the dog that is simply fighting for itself. Because a dog who loves its owner and its owner loves it back is fighting for more than itself. It's fighting for his master. And a dog that has just been taught hate and poorly treated, that dog is fighting for itself. It's fighting out of hate. And that is very weak, and it's easy to give up on yourself. And here's what he says in the book. He's talking about Rodrigo Nogueira, who was a mixed martial arts fighter. He fought in the UFC, and he went and watched Rodrigo fight in Pride Fighting Championships. Here's what he said, though. He said, "Rodrigo, with his face starting to swell, hugged me and gave me a kiss on the cheek, and I was filled with love for the guy. He just has a lot of love in his heart, and that's what has made him. Love has gotten him belief in himself. It's what makes a dog fight past 45 minutes. Love is what makes us great." And I just thought that is so true and so powerful, this idea that love is what makes us great. And a dog that is trained to love its master is fighting for something more than itself. It's fighting for a greater power. And a dog that has been taught only hate is simply fighting for itself. And so our players, when they know that we love them and we care about them and want them to do well, they go out and they play, and they're playing for more than themselves. They're playing for their teammates who they love and love them back. And they're playing for their coaches who love them and they love them back. And that is why I don't think there's a balance. I think that care about the players first and let the adversity come, and that alone will build the resilience. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and we will return very shortly. You are listening to the A Football Journey podcast. A Football Journey is a hands-on character curriculum utilized by coaches and given to players. For more information about A Football Journey, go to www.afootballjourney.com. All right, we are back. We're answering questions here from coaches, and the next question number 2, is about yelling at players. He asks, what do you do? Do you yell at players? How often do you yell at players? And when is appropriate time to yell at players? And so in return to this question, I just asked him, I said, okay, do you ever yell at the players? And he's like, yeah, sometimes I'll yell at them. And I was like, well, explain to me, when, because I know that I personally, you could probably hear my voice is going out a little bit. I yell I yell at players. Now, it's in a different way. I never will get in a kid's face and scream in their face. Instead, it's a yell from across the field at, hey, great catch, man, awesome job. Or, I'll be yelling coach, instruction, but to get in someone's face and to yell out of anger, I don't personally do that. And so I was asking him, I said, hey, if a player makes a mistake, you'll get up and just yell in their face? And he's like, yeah. And I said, do you do that to your wife? And he was like, yell at my wife? I was like, yeah, do you yell at your wife? She messes up. And he was like, no, I don't yell at my wife. And I said, okay, why not? He said, well, if I yelled at my wife, number one, that would cause more problems than it would solve. And number two, she would either shut down and resent me, or she would just attack me back. And I said, okay, so if you won't yell at your wife, why would you then yell at your players? If yelling at your wife is not effective, why would yelling at your players be effective? And I think sometimes we yell at players or we cuss at players or treat them a certain way because that's really the only avenue in life where it's somehow acceptable to do that. As a boss, you typically, if you're the boss at Walmart, you typically don't get in your employees' faces and just scream profanity or yell in their face. You typically don't do that because it doesn't go over well. But somehow it's okay for us to, or it's not looked down on to get in a kid's face and scream in a kid's face. And so, I've stopped doing that. When I remember, probably like most of us, when we're young coaches, we think, oh yeah, that's what it's all about, man. You just get up on them and you just get right in their face and you can just yell at them. And quickly learned that's not effective, not effective form of communication. Instead, it's much better, much better. Here's what I do now. The other day, I caught myself. I was watching film, and I was like, man, I don't know why he did that. And so I realized that's a fault in my own coaching. I should know why. I should have asked him during the play or right after the play. I should have asked him, why did you do that? Instead, I remember I ran up to him and I said, hey, don't do that. Do this. You missed that block. You gotta block him. You need to break down, yada, yada, yada. And I coached him up on it. But I never once asked, hey, why did you do that? And I think that I would have learned more about how to fix that problem if I would have known what the problem actually was. And so I always try to ask, why did you do that? Like a quarterback throws an interception and he comes to the sideline, and instead of just saying, hey, don't do that anymore, throw it to the open guy, instead I say, hey, what did you see? And 9 times out of 10, I get this incredibly accurate picture of what they saw. And that gives me a better understanding of how to fix that. So then, he says, hey, coach, that's safety. I know I'm reading that safety. And at first, he went towards the middle of the field, but then he came back. And he's sitting there saying, I should have thrown it earlier before he had a chance to come back, but I threw it too late. And now I know, okay, this kid is already thinking about it. He's just verbalized that to me, and now I can coach on top of his own coaching, his own self-correction. And so when you ask them, hey, what were you thinking? Why did you do that? You end up getting so much more, and you can actually solve the problem. So the goal is not just to always be correcting, but to also, on top of that, to be seeking why. Why are we making that mistake? I remember I was at the airport, and there was this everybody's coming off the plane and they're all going down this hallway, which is the wrong way to go. And at the end of the hallway, there's a guy standing there telling everybody, hey, don't go this way, go back. And there's a little sign at the entranceway of that hallway that says, hey, this is a do not enter, but it's covered up by a plant. And the guy at the end of the hallway is just getting really upset at these people coming off this airplane. And I'm just sitting there thinking, dude, you can get upset at all 99% of these people not seeing that sign. You can get upset at that and talk about how stupid they are and how they're a bunch of idiots. They can't read or whatever. Or you could ask them, hey, why did you come down this way? And they would say, Well, I got off the plane. This is the hallway where everyone's going. Well, didn't you see that sign? No, there's no sign back there. Oh, that sign's covered by a bush. Now you'd realize the problem instead of just standing there calling everybody idiots and thinking about how dumb they are. And I think sometimes as coaches, we can fall into that. We can sit there and say, man, that guy's an idiot. He doesn't know how to run that route or do that play. And we aren't really actually finding out what the problem is. Maybe it's a fundamental problem in the way we signal plays. Maybe you're signaling in a play or whatever, and the kid can't see it. Or that signal looks too much like the other signal. And if you ask him, he'll tell you, hey, coach, I thought that you signaled this play in. And so there's lots of ways, and we can't ever evaluate our own coaching until we are asking why. And so that was my advice about yelling at players and coaching players. I just want to find out why, and I want to have an open line of communication, and I don't want players to resent me for my coaching. Instead, I want them to crave that coaching, to come up to me and say, hey, coach, did you see that route? How can I do that better? Instead of, hey, my goal is to avoid coaching. My goal is to avoid getting yelled at. I told my players the other day, because there was a kid that I was coaching, and every time I coached him, he took offense to it. Like I was saying that he was bad or wrong. And I was just telling him, hey, look, I'm going to watch you like a hawk. And if there is the smallest little detail that we can polish up, that we can correct, I'm going to mention that to you, and we together are going to fix it, because I want you to be perfect. I want you to be amazing. And I'm not just, I was like, I think that when I talk to you, when I coach you, sometimes you feel like I'm saying that you're not perfect or that you did a terrible job. And really what I'm saying is, hey, let's use this as an opportunity to get better. And so ever since him and I had that conversation, man, he has been awesome. He's been coming up and saying, hey, coach, did you see my footwork there? How did that look? And man, when you get players doing that, that is really special. All right. Last question is, how do you enjoy the process? I think sometimes coaches are like, man, I just want to get that state champion. I just want to get it over with. I just want to win this game and win the next game and win all the rest of the games and get a state championship and just have it over with. So I don't have to stress out about it. And the second you do that, you turn around, you look back, and you say, man, I missed it. I try to enjoy the process, to not wish the days away, but instead to savor them and enjoy them. And one of my favorite things about coaching is that process of getting better every day and looking forward to that moment where that kid gets that little flash of, oh, I got it, coach. And now we can build on that and grow on that. And at the end of the year, to bring all the kids in and show them the last game, show them film of the last game of the year. And then right after that, show them film of the first game of the year and watch how their stances, their starts, their technique, their form has gotten better and better and better each week. And they get to understand that when you pour your heart and soul into something, when you really work hard at something, it pays off. You get something in return. They get to see, win, lose, or draw, whatever the record was of the season, they get to see, man, I got light years better. I improved so much. Look at my blocking in game one. Look at my blocking in the last game of the season. Wow. And that is one of the most special things for me as a coach. And the other most special thing is just getting to invest in those kids in that relationship. Enjoy being around them. Enjoy coaching them. The fact that they lean on you and say, hey, coach, how can I get this better? Coach, you know this, coach. Tell me, help me, give me your insight. And the fact that I get to watch them accomplish their dreams, because their dreams aren't just their dreams, they're also my dreams for them. And so that's really special for me. All right. Well, that concludes the questions for this week. Hey, you guys can send in more questions. You can go to footballjourney.com and just shoot me an email. You can also hit me up on Twitter at Derek Ware. There's lots of ways you can get a hold of me, and I look forward to hearing from you. This has been a Football Journey podcast. This podcast is powered by A Football Journey.